There's a woman in Tokyo who owns 11 pieces of clothing. Not 11 outfits, 11 pieces total. And somehow every single day, she looks like she just stepped out of a magazine nobody's heard of yet. The kind where the stylist clearly knew something the rest of us don't. You've probably scrolled past someone like her. Gray trousers, white shirt, one perfect coat. Nothing loud, nothing trying too hard. And yet your eye stops on her for a second longer than it should. Why does that happen? Why do some people look expensive in $10 basics, while other people look cheap in things that cost a fortune? That question is going to follow you through this whole video, because the answer isn't really about clothes. It's about something most of us have never been taught to see. Picture a small apartment in Kyoto. Morning light coming through a paper screen, soft and a little gray, the way it gets right before the sun fully commits to the day. A woman stands in front of a closet that could fit in a suitcase. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't stand there scrolling through hangers like she's picking a lottery number. She reaches for one thing, then another, and within maybe 40 seconds, she's dressed. Not just dressed, finished. Done. Looking like someone who has her life somewhat figured out, even if she doesn't. Now picture the opposite. A closet stuffed so full the door barely closes. Shirts crushed against each other. Shoes in the corner, some worn once. And still lack that feeling every morning of, I have nothing to wear. That sentence is strange when you actually stop and think about it. Nothing to wear, surrounded by everything. It's not a supply problem. It's something else. And once you see what it actually is, you can't really unsee it. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. The average person wears about 20% of their clothes 80% of the time. The rest just sits there, waiting, taking up space, taking up decisions, taking up a small sliver of mental energy every single morning, whether you notice it or not. That's the quiet thief in this story. Not vanity, not fashion, just friction. Tiny, invisible friction repeated every day for years without you ever naming it. And this is where Japan enters the picture, not as a place with better taste necessarily, but as a culture that stumbled decades ago onto something the rest of the world is only now catching up to. There's a word, you may have heard it, ma. It roughly means the space between things, the pause between two notes in music, the emptiness in a room that isn't wasted space but actual, intentional breathing room. Japanese design, at its core, has always trusted emptiness the way most cultures trust decoration. A traditional room isn't filled to prove wealth. It's emptied to prove clarity. Now hold that thought, because it's about to reappear somewhere you wouldn't expect. Walk through a department store in Osaka, and you'll notice something odd if you're paying attention. The racks aren't packed. There's air between the hangers. Somebody somewhere decided that a shirt deserves space around it to actually be seen. Compare that to a fast fashion store back home. Walls of color, sound, motion, everything screaming for attention at once. One of those places makes you feel calm. The other makes you feel a little tired without knowing why. Clothes absorb the energy of how they're chosen. That's not poetry. That's just true. So here's the first real secret, and it's smaller than you'd expect. Before you ever buy anything, you decide on your colors, not your style. Not your vibe, your colors. Most stylish minimal wardrobes, Japanese or otherwise, run on 2 or 3 neutrals and maybe one accent. Navy, gray, cream, black, white, one shade of green. That's it. That's the whole trick hiding in plain sight. Because once every piece you own can be worn with every other piece you own, something happens that feels almost like magic, except it's just math. 11 pieces stop being 11 outfits. They become dozens, 30, 40, sometimes more, all built from the same small stack of fabric because nothing clashes, nothing fights. There's no decision fatigue standing between you and the door. Try to feel that for a second. Imagine opening your closet and every single thing in there works with every other thing. No math, no gambling, just reach and go. That feeling, that ease, is the actual product. The clothes are just the delivery method. There's a term for this that stylists in Tokyo use almost casually. The way someone back home might mention their grocery list, a capsule. A small, deliberate collection built around one unshakable rule. Everything talks to everything else. It sounds almost too simple to matter. And yet most people, without ever meaning to, have built the opposite. A closet full of individual decisions that were each fine on their own, and collectively, chaos. Here's a small scene. A man walks into a shop looking for something for the weekend. He leaves with a mustard-colored jacket. It's beautiful. It's also the only mustard thing he owns, and it will sit in his closet for 3 years being technically beautiful and practically useless, because it doesn't speak the language of anything else hanging next to it. Multiply that by 10 years of casual shopping, and you get a closet that looks abundant and feels empty. That's the paradox hiding behind so many "I have nothing to wear" mornings. So, quietly, almost invisibly, the real skill isn't buying well, it's buying in conversation. Every new piece has an interview before it's allowed in. Does this speak to at least 3 things I already own? If not, it doesn't come home. No matter how much you love it in the mirror, under those flattering store lights that, let's be honest, are doing quite a lot of the work. Now here's where it gets a little uncomfortable in a useful way. A lot of us don't actually buy clothes for the reasons we think we do. We buy them for a feeling, a version of a person we hope to become on a random future Tuesday. The gym clothes for the person who finally starts running. The elegant blazer for the more sophisticated version of us that exists mostly in imagination. There's nothing shameful in that, it's deeply human. But it quietly fills closets with clothes for a life we're not actually living yet, while the life we are living gets dressed from the same 3 items over and over. Japanese minimalism, at least the honest version of it, isn't about owning less as some kind of monk-like discipline. It's about owning for the life you're actually in, which is weirdly a much more emotional idea than it first appears. It's a form of self-honesty disguised as tidiness. Let's go somewhere quieter for a second. There's a small shop in a narrow street, the kind you'd walk past if you weren't looking carefully. Inside, maybe 30 items total, folded with a precision that feels almost meditative. No music, no pressure, just fabric and light and space between things. The shopkeeper isn't trying to sell you everything. She's trying to help you find the 1 or 2 things that will actually earn their place. Notice the shift there, first, from selling volume to protecting attention. That's the invisible thread running under everything in this story. It was never really about clothes. It's about where your attention goes every single morning before you've even had coffee. Every unnecessary choice in your day is a tiny withdrawal from a limited account. Decision fatigue is real, measurable, and it doesn't care whether the decision is which shirt or which career move. Your brain treats them with a similar kind of cost, which means a wardrobe built to remove decisions isn't really about looking good. It's about protecting the sharper hours of your day for things that actually deserve them. That reframes the 11-piece woman from earlier, doesn't it? She's not restrained. She's efficient in a way most of us have never been taught to value. Here's the second secret, and it's the one almost nobody mentions, because it isn't glamorous. Fit matters more than anything else you will ever buy. More than brand, more than trend, more than fabric even in some cases. A plain white shirt that fits your shoulders correctly will look more expensive than a designer shirt that doesn't. This isn't opinion. Stylists will tell you this quietly, almost like a trade secret they're a little tired of repeating because nobody believes it until they try it. Picture 2 people wearing the exact same gray t-shirt. One bought it 2 sizes too big because it's comfortable. The other had it taken in slightly at the shoulders and sides, barely noticeable, just enough. The second person looks like they have money. The first person looks like they gave up on Tuesday morning. Same shirt, same store. Completely different story being told to the world without a single word. This is the part that stings a little, in a good way. Most of us have been shopping for size instead of shape. And nobody ever explained the difference because it's not really taught anywhere. It's absorbed quietly by people who happen to grow up around good tailoring or good taste, and the rest of us are left guessing, wondering why some outfits just work and others just don't, without ever locating the actual variable. Now here's a turn you might not expect. All of this, the neutrals, the capsule thinking, the obsession with fit, none of it is really the deepest layer. It's the visible mechanism. Underneath it is something almost philosophical, and once you see it, the entire video reorganizes itself in your head. Japanese minimalism treats objects the way some people treat relationships, with the assumption that fewer, deeper connections outperform many shallow ones. A wardrobe built this way isn't a collection of items. It's a small, trusted circle. Every piece has to earn its place and keep earning it. Nothing stays out of guilt. Nothing stays because it was expensive. If it doesn't serve you anymore, it leaves without ceremony, without drama. Compare that to how most closets actually function, as storage for guilt. The dress that didn't fit after that one winter. The shoes that hurt but were too nice to throw away. The jacket from a job you don't have anymore. A closet like that isn't full of clothes. It's full of unfinished emotional business, quietly hanging there every single day, whispering a small, low-grade tension every time the door opens. That's the invisible antagonist in this story. Not clutter, not fashion mistakes, unfinished emotional weight disguised as fabric. And once you see that, minimalism stops being about aesthetics entirely. It becomes something closer to relief. There's a particular kind of quiet that happens in a room with very little in it. Not emptiness in the sad sense. Emptiness in the sense of a held breath finally released. That's the actual feeling people are chasing when they admire someone's simple, elegant wardrobe. They're not admiring taste. They're admiring peace they can see from the outside. Let's slow down here because this next part is small, but it changes how you'll shop for the rest of your life. Japanese minimal style leans heavily on texture instead of pattern. Where a Western closet might reach for a bold print to create interest, a minimal Japanese wardrobe reaches for contrast in material instead. A rougher linen jacket over a smooth cotton shirt, a soft wool scarf against a crisp collar. The eye still finds something interesting to look at, it's just quieter about it. Less shouting, more texture doing the talking. This matters because pattern ages fast and texture barely ages at all. A striped shirt says 2019 the moment 2019 becomes a memory. A well-chosen wool and cotton combination just says considered. In any year, on any street, in any decade practically. Somewhere around here, a lot of people watching this start doing the math on their own closet. That's normal. That's actually the entire point. This isn't really a video about Japan. It's a mirror with a Japanese-shaped frame around it. So let's go one level deeper because there's a bigger truth waiting underneath the practical tips. The real secret isn't the neutrals, it isn't the fit. It isn't even the emotional decluttering. The real secret is that style, done this way, becomes a form of self-respect that doesn't require anyone's validation to function. You're not dressing for the version of yourself that other people are impressed by. You're dressing for the version of yourself that doesn't waste your own mornings, doesn't lie to you about who you are, and doesn't cost you money you didn't need to spend, chasing a feeling that clothing was never actually going to give you. That's the pivot. That's the moment where a stylish, cheap wardrobe quietly becomes a wardrobe that respects your time, your money, and your attention, which is a very different thing to want and a much harder thing to fake. Here's something almost nobody says out loud. Cheap and expensive were never really about price. A $5 shirt worn with intention, fit correctly, chosen in conversation with everything else you own, will outperform a $200 piece bought on impulse because it looked good under store lighting at 8 in the evening after a long day. Expensive is a feeling created by coherence. Cheap is a feeling created by chaos. Price tags are almost incidental to both. Let that sit for a second because it quietly undoes a belief a lot of people have carried since they were teenagers, standing in front of a mirror in a store, wondering if the brand name was doing something the mirror couldn't confirm on its own. Now picture the peak of this whole story. Not a dramatic scene, a quiet one, which somehow makes it heavier. A woman, somewhere in her 30s, stands in front of a closet that finally makes sense. 11 pieces, maybe 14 with shoes. She's not thinking about fashion at all in this moment. She's thinking about the meeting she has in 20 minutes and the fact that she has exactly 0 decisions left to make about what she's wearing to it. That mental space, that tiny reclaimed piece of her morning, gets spent somewhere else now, on her actual life, on the meeting, on the coffee she gets to drink slowly instead of gulping down while hunting for a matching sock. That's the transformation. It was never about looking good. Looking good was just the visible symptom of something much quieter happening underneath. A life with slightly less noise in it. And here's the part that reframes everything you've heard so far. This isn't really achievable through more shopping. It's achievable through less, done more carefully, which is uncomfortable because our instinct almost always is that the solution to "I have nothing to wear" must be buy more things. It rarely is. Usually it's the opposite. Usually the closet needs less, chosen better, held to a higher and more honest standard. Think back now to that first image. The woman getting dressed in 40 seconds in soft Kyoto light. You probably assumed at the start that this was a story about efficiency, maybe about discipline. It wasn't, not really. It was a story about a very specific kind of freedom. The freedom of removing thousands of tiny decisions from your life, so the big ones get more of you. The 11 pieces were never really the secret. The secret was what she got to keep for herself once she stopped negotiating with her closet every single morning. If there's one thing worth carrying out of this video, it's this. The most stylish people you've ever noticed almost never look like they're trying. Not because they don't care, but because they did the caring once carefully at the beginning. In the choosing, in the fitting, in the deciding what stays and what finally, gently, gets to leave. Everything after that is just quiet repetition of a good decision morning after morning, without needing to think about it again. That's not a wardrobe trick. That's just what peace looks like, worn casually in public, without anyone noticing it's peace at all.